Hey guys, Anthony here at DIYautotech, and we're going to be showing you today how to replace motor mounts and transmission transaxle mounts on a Saturn SL2. Basically, the customer said that he was getting some clutch chatter, but after inspection, it was obvious that the motor mounts and the transaxle mounts needed replacing because they were cracked. So we're going to show you how to do that today. First step would be to jack the car up with some jack stands here. Don't just leave it on your hydraulic jack because those jacks fail, and if they fail, you will hurt yourself or even kill yourself if you're under the car. So jack the car up on both sides right behind the front tires or wherever your manufacturer recommends. Put two jack stands underneath to get the tires off the ground. And then what you also want to do is put some wheel chocks behind the rear wheels like these. You just set them right behind the rear wheels, kick them in there a little bit so that your car doesn't roll back, and set the e-brake. Another quick tip, remember whenever you're performing anything under the hood, to disconnect the negative cable of the battery, otherwise known as the black terminal on the battery. Just unscrew it and leave it hanging there. Don't let it touch anything. This is just so that none of your fans turn on, nothing energizes itself while you're working on the car, because sometimes you touch something that you shouldn't touch and you might ground out and you could fry some sensors or you can do some harm to yourself. So make sure to always do that. Takes 30 seconds. It'll save you a lot of time in the long run if anything bad ever happens. Okay, we got the car jacked up and the rear tire's chocked and it's on jack stands. So what we have here is our motor mount here. Okay, what this does is it's got like a rubber boot in the inside, and it takes out the vibrations that your engine makes from your engines twist from side to side and they rock forward to back when you're driving. And what there is a bunch of rubber material here that kind of deadens the vibrations so you don't feel it. But as you can tell, mine is all cracked here like this, so it's giving me a symptom that would seem like clutch chatter. At least that definitely needs replacing. What we're going to do is we're going to take off these top 3 bolts here, and we're going to jack the engine up from the oil pan with a couple pieces of wood so you don't dent the oil pan. But we can't do that until we remove these bolts also. There's 2 bolts here. We got to remove like 5 bolts. Jack the engine up a little bit. We'll pull this out of the way, pop the new one back in, tighten everything down to the torque specs. We have sheets here. Always make sure you have good material to go off of. I'm using All Data here, which is known in the industry to be very accurate. I've got all my measurements, everything to do here, and my torque specs. So we're going to get onto that. And I've just got a breaker bar here with a 15mm impact socket. These shouldn't be too tight. These are supposed to be only at 32 foot-pounds. But I just figured I'd use this anyways to get some leverage and just start loosening up all these bolts here. As we're doing here. Once we get them all loosened up, we'll take them off and jack the engine up from the bottom. Alright, so just to show you what I mean here, I don't know if you can really see that, but what I've done is I've taken a piece of wood and you jack it up right underneath the oil pan, so that you're not denting it at all, okay? The wood's gonna take up all the pressure. It'll ding the wood, not the oil pan. And what we've done is we've basically cradled the engine high enough to where this assembly is not touching the frame anymore. It's just kind of dangling there, so we can pull it off. And after inspection, you can see how bad the motor mount was cracked. The motor mount's supposed to be sitting flush with that top hole there, but because it sagged so much, you can see that it is now cracked, and sagging and cracking is not a good thing you want to find on a motor mount, so it's definitely a good idea that I have decided to replace this. Alright, one of the steps we got to do now is to take that nut off of the stud, because usually the studs come out easier than the nuts do. We're going to replace the studs on the motor mount too. So what we're going to do is take it, set it in the vise here, just loosen it up. Ow. There we go. Now we have the nut out that we can use. And we do that for all 3 of those studs. Alright, what we're doing right here is installing the 3 new actual studs for the motor mounts to sit on. For my car, these are supposed to be torqued on to about 40 foot-pounds. So I got those on there. We're going to check them with torque wrench, and then we'll see how it is. Like I said, we're just going to put these last 2 bolts on here. Alright, so now that we have the studs put in and the bolts put back in on the ones, after that step, basically, you're going to take your torque wrench here, which I have, and I wrote on it, return to 0 after usage. You always return a torque wrench back to 0 foot-pounds after usage to keep it accurate. Basically, what a torque wrench is a wrench with a bunch of numbers that gives you torque in either foot-pounds or Newton meters or inch-pounds. And these are all just specifications for how tight your bolts are supposed to be. For these bolts here, we have to set to 37 or 38 foot-pounds. So I have my wrench set to 38 foot-pounds. And what it does is it clicks when you've gone far enough. So as you can hear, it's clicking. I've already gone far enough to where my bolts are tight. Hear that click? You don't go any further than the click. You keep tightening until you hear the click, and then you stop. Our next bolts are going to be the same way. Like I said, we're just going to put these last 2 bolts on here. Alright, now we're going to lower the strut back down slowly. Alright, jack's all the way down. New motor mount's in place. Next step is going to be to loosen the cradle on the bottom that deals with the forward and aft movement of the engine block. Alright, unfortunately I'm not going to be able to show you this step due to the fact that it's raining and that I don't have the right tool to pull out these little push pins. Saturn uses plastic push pins and they always break, and I don't want to buy new ones. So I was going to pull it off to show you exactly what's going on, but basically what's behind here is a smaller, it's kind of like a motor mount. It's the same idea. It's a rubber piece, like a wishbone piece, and it keeps it, helps keep the engine in line with that top motor mount. They both work together. All we're doing here is we're getting underneath the car, and there's 2 15mm bolts right inside there. You probably can't see them, sorry about that. We're just going to loosen them real quick, then tighten them back up just to align everything, and then that'll be it for the motor mount, and then we'll be on to the transaxle mount. Alright, first step in the transaxle mount in my car is to remove the intake, but since this is an aftermarket piece, it's I can kind of get around it a little bit better than the stock one. What you're trying to do is get to that little wishbone bolt right there. So loosen that baby up, take it out, and then we'll be able to work on the tranny mount. Next step is to remove the driver's side front tire. And then we can pull off the splash guard inside there and get to the tranny mount. Alright, once you pull that plastic shield out of the way, you get access to the tranny mount here. Right there. We're gonna loosen up those bolts on top. Or I'm sorry, there's one bolt underneath the frame, straight down underneath here. And we're going to loosen that up, and then we'll loosen the 2 nuts right there as well, and then jack up the transmission with a piece of wood as well. Okay, sorry guys, I couldn't video much because it started downpouring on me like it was about to be the last rain on earth. But what we did was we took the splash guard shield off this thing, okay, with the 2 push pins, pulled it out, then got access to the transmission mount, which looks like this. Okay, we pulled that bottom bolt out from the bottom of the frame, then the 2 bolts up top that you see here, they're outlined in silver. We jacked the transmission up from the bottom with a piece of wood so that this could clear the frame. It came out, and then we put the new one in, bolted it back in, bolted the bolts up, put this shield back on, and before you put the tires back on, since you have the tires off, you might as well do a little brake inspection, check to make sure your brakes are okay. I used some brake cleaner just now, and then we're going to put the tire back on both sides. Double check all of our bolts to make sure they're all torqued down, and then take it for a test drive. Okay, after you're done putting the tires back on and torquing them down, mine were 103 foot-pounds. After you double checked all your bolts to make sure they were tightened on the motor mounts and the transaxle mounts, your last step be to return the negative battery post to the battery terminal on the battery, and then take your car off the jacks very easily. Make sure not to like jump anything around or do it too quick, and then start it up and see how it runs. It kind of sucks that I couldn't do a full-scale video for you guys today because it's been raining the whole time. I couldn't bring my camera outside, but I got it done. It took me about an hour to do each side. If you have any questions, leave a comment below or whatever, and I'll try and get back to you with the best of my knowledge. All right, thanks for watching, guys. See you next time. All right, we're here in the Saturn. We're doing a road test after performing the motor mount and transaxle mount remove and replace. We're just gonna take it for a drive and see how it feels, see if it comes out a little smoother. I'm just letting the car warm up right now a little bit, and then we'll go for a drive. All right.